Breaking news! Something just shifted inside the Ravens front office, and while the move looks like a simple contract adjustment on paper, behind the scenes it could be the spark for a major roster shakeup. The timing is no accident, and the names floating around are the kind that can flip the season's momentum in an instant. But before we dive into who might be walking through the doors in Baltimore, make sure you hit that like button if you're a true Ravens fan. It's always amazing to see fans of all ages supporting this team, and if you feel like it, comment, "Go Ravens," so we know the flock is locked in for what could be a big twist. Let's get to it. Overnight, Baltimore converted $12 million of Roquan Smith's $15 million base salary into a bonus. A classic cap engineering pivot that immediately creates flexibility without sacrificing a cornerstone piece of the defense. The restructuring opens roughly $9 million in 2025 cap space and places the Ravens back into the sweet spot of available room, with updated space around the $10.6 million mark as of today. Before anyone starts building multi-year dream scenarios, remember how these numbers actually function over a season. Teams typically reserve in the ballpark of $4 million to navigate injuries, practice squad churn, and contingency signings. In other words, the Ravens have enough dry powder for a targeted, short-term addition. Think a one-year veteran deal in that $6 million neighborhood without compromising in-season agility. Now, why does a seemingly bookkeeping move feel like a football headline? Because the timing hints at intention. Look at the pass rush snapshot from week 1. Baltimore's first sack didn't land until deep in the fourth quarter. That's not the standard this defense holds itself to, not against the kind of offensive line play they'll see again in January. Rotational depth matters, closing speed matters, and finish at the top of the rush matters. The current group has tools: Odafoa's burst, Kyle Van Noy's savvy, Tavius Robinson's length, but it's missing a little of that instant, week-to-week disruption you can trust on 3rd and 7 with the game tightening. That's where a surgical signing can flip a weakness into a lever. Enter the most obvious name tied to this specific kind of flexibility, Jadeveon Clowney. He was in Dallas, did the visit, did the look around, and walked out without a contract. That isn't a guarantee of anything, but it's a flare the rest of the league can see from miles away. Clowney's track record here matters. His most productive football in recent years came in this building, in this culture, with responsibilities that married his strengths to Baltimore's structure. No, Mike McDonald is no longer dialing it up, and no one should assume a carbon copy of last year's sack total, but familiarity reduces onboarding friction, which matters when you're trying to buy disruption right now at a price that fits the space we just outlined. If you're Eric DeCosta, you don't need to rewrite the playbook. You need to add juice to the edges in a way that complements what's already working and covers what didn't show up fast enough and weak. If not an edge, the secondary is another plausible lane for this money to travel. A veteran corner such as Stephon Gilmore would bring high-end processing and matchup craft, the kind of toolkit that buys your pass rush an extra half second. You're not signing 2019 Gilmore. You're signing a pro who still understands leverage, route families, and receiver tells at a level that raises the floor of your coverage on critical downs. Would the Ravens do it? The building's default stance is often "we like our guys," and there's merit to letting chemistry and health stabilize. But if the internal evaluation says the room needs one more grown-up who can win with eyes and hands rather than 4.3 speed, the cap space created gives Baltimore the option to act without hesitation. Zooming to the second level, the linebacker picture is stable but not untouchable. Roquan Smith is the heartbeat, but every heartbeat needs oxygen over a 17-game marathon. Trenton Simpson flashed range and urgency, and there's a pathway for him to stack reps and confidence. Still, if the staff wants a veteran who soaks up early down snaps, communicates checks, and dampens the peaks and valleys of a young rotation, Eric Kendricks fits the one-year stabilizer profile. He's coming off a heavy production season. Tackles are a counting stat, sure, but availability and consistency have value, especially if you want to keep Roquan fresher for the months that matter most. This isn't a splash, it's ballast, and sometimes ballast is exactly what keeps a contender upright when the schedule gets choppy. What about the interior? Christian Wilkins is the kind of name that sends any fan base into dream mode because interior disruption is the most efficient cheat code in modern defense. But it's not just about talent. It's about fit, cost, and, yes, locker room calculus. The Ravens have managed 2 emotionally draining postseason exits and a primetime stumble to start this year. The culture needs to be steel reinforced, not tested. If you're weighing upside versus volatility, you don't just ask what someone can do on 3rd down in October. You ask what they bring into the room in December when the outside noise gets loud. That makes a great player. Complicated equation scenario less likely unless every non-football box checks clean. And then there's the other veteran corner route, Asante Samuel Samuel Jr. a technician when healthy. He'd be a classic cap-created opportunity if Baltimore wanted a cover man who doesn't require constant safety shade to survive against top receivers. Health is the variable everyone circles in red ink. That's presumably why a player with his tape is still hovering in the market. If the medicals convince, the on-field logic is easy. Add someone who reduces stress on the structure so Mike McDonald's successor can call the aggressive stuff without bracing for busts. If the medicals don't convince, you let the space exist for in-season triage and keep developing the current room. All of this funnels back to the same central idea. The restructure isn't just accountancy, it's a permission slip. It gives DeCosta the ability to act deliberately in that mid-tier veteran lane, where a single addition can address the exact thing that looked fragile last Sunday without reframing the entire cap picture. Given the constraints and the calendar, the most Ravens-like move is a short, smart deal with someone who knows how to win a specific set of snaps the current roster didn't win often enough in week one. That points us right back to the edge market, where familiarity plus fit plus price equals, well, you can do that math. The fascinating part of this story is how the Ravens are always one step ahead when it comes to roster management. What looks like a bookkeeping maneuver is really a signal that the team is ready to act. And when you follow the breadcrumbs, the possibilities become even more intriguing. Baltimore has been in this position before, and history tells us they don't clear space without intent. Think back to past midseason additions. Each time, it wasn't about making headlines. It was about making the roster sturdier in the exact area that needed it most. That is the Ravens' DNA, and this restructure feels cut from the same cloth. It's worth emphasizing the psychology of timing. Week one is always a magnifying glass, highlighting flaws that the offseason couldn't fully predict. The pass rush didn't produce until late. The coverage had moments of stress, and the linebacker rotation still feels like a work in progress. Those aren't catastrophic weaknesses, but for a franchise with championship expectations, even small cracks need immediate patching. That's why this cap move feels more urgent than casual. It's not about stacking flexibility. It's about ensuring the Ravens don't let a slow start snowball into missed opportunities. And what does that urgency tell us about Eric DeCosta's mindset? It tells us he's keeping every option alive. Clowney makes sense because the fit is known and the price is right. Gilmore makes sense because the Ravens value veterans who understand situational football. Kendricks makes sense because stabilizing the second level keeps the defense balanced. Even the long shots like Wilkins or Samuel Jr. aren't impossible if the market breaks right. The point is that Baltimore now has a runway to choose rather than scramble. Fans should also appreciate how this move reinforces the Ravens' commitment to Lamar Jackson's window. When you restructure a defensive leader's deal to open flexibility, you're not just thinking about the defense, you're protecting the team's overall trajectory. You're signaling that this isn't a season to play conservative, it's a season to maximize every edge you can find. That's why this is bigger than a simple cap note. It's a chess move in a season where every square matters. So as the Ravens prepare for week 2 and beyond, all eyes are on what they do next. Will they bring back a trusted pass rusher who already knows the system? Will they fortify the secondary with a former All-Pro who still has plenty of wisdom to offer? Or will they shock everyone with a bold swing that no one saw coming? Whatever happens, this story is far from finished, and the answer could shape how high this team climbs in 2025. Now it's your turn. Ravens fans, which direction would you take? Would you go with the safe, proven veteran or the bold, high upside play? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear how you'd use this new flexibility. And don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe for more exclusive breakdowns, and check out the next video already waiting for you on the screen. The season is just beginning, and the Ravens story is about to get even more dramatic.